Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Wolves. Welcome back to a new update video on the channel. Hope you guys are keeping well. As always, let's smash that like button down below, guys. Let's try and get 300 likes on today's video and subscribe to the channel as we edge closer to 20,000 subscribers. And we're well into the last week now of June. I've said it on a number of videos since the season ended. I really expect sort of from now, possibly going into early part of next week is when things will really start to ramp up. From the 1st of July, the new football accounts start. That's where a lot of teams will look to start getting their deals, as it's a new sort of accounting period. So I'm hoping within the next week or so we start to see some more juicy bits and pieces in terms of transfer news and rumours. Nelson Semedo is one that we're sort of still unsure on what's going on. I'm sure this week we will have an answer on that one. I don't think that one will go into July. I think we'll know either way by the end of this month. But let's start off. We had a really interesting piece from Johnny Phillips, which dropped this morning, which I'll flag up on the screen now, and I'll talk through it with you guys. He just start off with the situation of Nelson Semedo, actually, and sort of like many fans have questioning the terms that Wolves did put on offer for the player. And obviously said at the time when he joined Wolves, there was a bit of a project going on. Whereas at the moment, we haven't really got that sort of unique selling point anymore, unless Vitor and the new staff towards the top of the club could change things slightly. Of course, there is a note about Matt Hobbs. Johnny Phillips at the time did break the exclusive story that Matt Hobbs was moving on. And of course, we now have Domenico Tetti and a number of members of staff in those senior roles now. Johnny does note that Vitor Pereira didn't really form a particularly close relationship with Matt Hobbs. You probably expect that, I suppose, with it definitely not being a Matt Hobbs appointment, you would say. And they're hoping that Tetti now can bring in a new level and layer of communication between all parties, really. I saw it on the Fair Lopez video. Spoke fluent Spanish. I have no doubt he's going to have fluent English, Italian, possibly Portuguese would be a massive plus as well. So that's quite an interesting dynamic to add to the scene as well. And as Johnny points out here as well, there's obviously an indication of trust from Jeff Sheehan-Fosen in Vitor Pereira, which, again, I've seen a few people throw a few question marks over. This is a manager that, I think Johnny mentioned it earlier on in his article, a manager that's had 17 different clubs in 22 years, and you're sort of handing him the keys to this football club. Yes, of course, there is going to be an element of risk in that. There have been comments from Vitor Pereira over the weekend as well. He spoke to the newspaper Marca over in Spain. Now, this interview was actually conducted before the signing of Fair Lopez, so I think that has to be taken into account as well. But Vitor basically said he came to the Premier League to fight. He doesn't want to just come and avoid relegation. He wants to build and grow and get the team much further up in the league table. And when asked about the exits of the likes of Mateus Cunha, Ryan Aït-Nouri, Vitor said we have got a good, strong team, but he's a little bit worried about the situation because that obviously we need to be bringing in some quality players this summer. And then some interesting points in regards to the recruitment, and obviously we'll talk more about that shortly as well. But obviously Matt Hobbs has moved on now. There are a number of targets that he was working on, one of them being Bournemouth's David Brooks, and a Bundesliga forward who unfortunately is unnamed, so we don't know. And obviously those deals are now unlikely to happen. I think the David Brooks one has actually got quite a lot of disrespect online, to be fair. I think he's an okay player. I don't think he would have been the Mateus Cunha replacement, of course not. But I think in terms of a homegrown attacking option, I don't think he would have been the worst player to bring in. But that's just two targets from a whole list and a whole host of targets that Matt Hobbs may well have been working on at the time. It's also said Vitor Pereira is targeting several Portuguese players. Again, no names as of yet, but it'll be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks if any of those do come to fruition. And obviously the profile of players expected to fit Pereira's style. We're looking to get the right profile of player at wing-backs on both sides, and another player in the number 10 role as well. So lots to sink our teeth into from that article from Johnny. A great read as always, and hopefully a lot of that does come to fruition in terms of getting these deals done. And like he pointed out, from the 1st of July, that's when we should see things, all being well, speed up a little bit. One player that has been linked with an exit today is Tommy Doyle. Again, we knew that this was going to be the case in terms of him being a player likely to move on. It said that Wolves would prefer a loan deal. 3 clubs have been mentioned in having an interest in him. Newly promoted Premier League side Sunderland and newly promoted Championship clubs Birmingham City and Wrexham as well. Yeah, again, a few people saying about this one, well, if he's not part of the plans, why aren't we just selling him? But I think in terms of market value at the moment, Wolves there would be no point in selling him. We signed him for £5 million. Would you make a profit on that? Probably not. But even if you did, Manchester City hold a 50% sell-on clause as well. So all likelihood is if Wolves sold him this summer, they would be making a loss on this transfer. So I think there's no harm in having Tommy out on loan, playing well, all being well, depending on which level it's at. I don't think the Birmingham or Wrexham ones would be a bad shout. Same with Sunderland. I think playing him in the Premier League, as long as you know he's going to get regular minutes, is probably good. But with Birmingham and Wrexham, they'll have high ambitions. They'll want to be winning football matches and climbing up the Championship. He could be a big part of that. So I think either way, as long as he stays injury-free and a big part of whichever team he's at, his value this time next year will be a lot higher than what it is now. So I think Wolves have made the right call. I don't think it's worth selling him straight away as well because he's out of favour in Vitor's plans. We don't know. In 12 months' time, Vitor Pereira might not be here. There might be another head coach that prefers Tommy Doyle. I think a lot of us can see the qualities that Tommy has to his game. So I wouldn't cut ties with him just yet. And a loan is probably the right decision. Another player who is returning from loan is Hugo Bueno. Over the last 48 hours or so, again, there's been whispers about his future. In particular, Feyenoord. Robin van Persie made some comments towards the end of last season that ideally he would want to keep Hugo Bueno around. Feyenoord have apparently been looking into the possibility of that. There were some more comments flagged up by a journalist in the Netherlands yesterday, but that has been pretty much quashed now from other sites in the Netherlands, basically saying that Wolves have no intention right now in letting Hugo Bueno go, and he's very much going to be part of the first team setup at the club. Spain under-21s are now out of the under-21 European Championships, so Hugo Bueno may have a little break now, may return to pre-season action a few days or a week or so after the main bulk of the squad. But we are expecting to be keeping Hugo Bueno around. Last season did okay at Feyenoord. I think that's a very decent loan spell, a good example of a loan spell that has definitely worked for Wolves, and hopefully he comes back. But he will need competition, whether that's a player to sort of play ahead of him or whether that's a player to play alongside him and fight for the left wing back space. We'll have to wait and see. Another player likely to move on is Goncalo Guedes. Not been major speculation about his future as of yet, but Vitor Pereira did say it publicly a couple of weeks ago that the player does want to be moving on. We have had a rumour that Besiktas, managed by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at the moment in Turkey, do have an interest in the player, but not much more information other than that as of right now. Like I've said before, I'm always a little bit dubious over Turkish sources. I just think, I just don't know where they get the information from sometimes, to be completely honest. But Guedes, I think, is definitely an option, and there are a lot of teams in Turkey that are looking actively to spend quite a little bit of money this summer. So it may well be a possibility for him anyway. But I'm not expected to see Goncalo Guedes in the Wolves squad from the start of next season. One player that I spoke about last week was Jean Lucumi, the Colombian centre-back, currently playing in Italy for Bologna. Now, again, another Italian source has mentioned Wolves in their report, with Bologna potentially open to the idea of selling the centre-back. It's thought that they're going to want around 28 million euros for him, though. His contract is up at the end of next season, so now really they're going to have to sell him this summer. I mentioned on the last video, these are the sort of deals where probably the later you go in the summer, the more you can haggle on the price a little bit. So if the interest is genuine, it's said in the Gazzetta dello Sport today that Wolves have been following the player for over a year now. The longer you leave it, the more chance you might get a better deal. But saying that, you've lost pre-season then. So there's pros and cons to doing both things, really. But a number of Premier League sides also interested. Last time I mentioned Tottenham and Brighton. There were other teams named in the latest article as well. But interesting that another outlet, initially it came from South America. This time it's come from Italy. Interesting that a couple of outlets now are jumping on this and including Wolves in the registered interest in that player. Another player the club have reportedly got an interest in is Nicolas Raskin, currently playing for Rangers, 24 years of age, Belgian midfielder. actually had a really solid season for Rangers last year. It's said that the player is high on potential transfer options for Wolves this summer. That came from Record over in Scotland. Again, a couple of other Premier League teams interested in him right now. It'll be interesting to see what the situation is with the midfielders, though. Obviously, João Gomes and Andre, I would hope, are going to be sticking around. Boubacar Traoré, question marks over him. Obviously, Tommy Doyle will move on. So there will be space for midfielders. But obviously, it's got to be a player that either is expecting to play third or fourth choice, or maybe actively wants to fight for that place. But Nicholas Raskin at the moment could be an option for Wolves, but no real information or big information on him as of yet. More reports from South America this weekend are suggesting that Wolves are taking a look at the Colombian forward Jordan Barrera. Again, a number of sides interested in him. Sevilla, Fenerbahce, Salzburg, Eintracht Frankfurt and Wolves have been named to have an interest in the 19-year-old attacking midfielder. Currently playing for Colombia. It's interesting that these South American links keep popping up. And it's just really random that these sources and journalists from South America are including Wolves in the name as well. Another young player, I think with Fer Lopez in, I'm not sure Wolves would risk another young player in that specific position. But again, very early days on that one at the moment. No real juicy information as of yet. And we have had news on Sunday that Matheus Mane now has pretty much agreed terms on his professional contract at Wolves, and we should see official confirmation of that very soon. The player is said to have rejected interest from other Premier League clubs. There was interest from abroad as well, but he is going to be staying put at Wolves. Of course, Vitor Pereira gave him his professional debut towards the end of last season and has said that he may well be part of the first team frame again this coming campaign. So looking forward to that. But guys, not much bulk and juice in terms of incoming news at the moment, but I'm hoping that we could change that very, very soon. Hopefully you enjoyed it today. Hopefully I gave you a fair bit of information on what could potentially be happening over the next few weeks or so. As always, hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, guys. Look after yourselves. I'll be sure to keep you guys updated and be back within the next day or so with, fingers crossed, some more positive Wolverhampton Wanderers news. Until then, though, guys, look after yourself, and I'll see you on the next one.